What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of B is for Build. This is our final in-shop build episode. I haven't really slept in 3 days. It's our final push before we get the car on the truck and send it to SEMA. Now, I say that because we're running really tight on our deadline as far as things that we have to do, but there are some things we can do at the show. I firmly believe that if you don't push it, even if that means working at the show, if you don't do that to get the car to its fullest, makes all these hard, long nights kind of worthless. Because like, if a painter was painting a picture and just stopped when they ran out of like red, I don't know where I'm going with that, but anyways, should use all the colors. Am I sleep deprived? What's going on? All right. This is the last episode. This is the last push episode. Let's get to work. It is wheel time. And by wheel time, I mean last night Kyle started in on the wheels. But I wanted to show them to you guys. So we found a nice dark corner in the back of the shop where there's no lights to present to you the wheels for this build. So these wheels were made for us by VR Wheels. Great company here in America. And we needed 3-piece wheels with some mega offsets in the rear to fit the Lamborghini with the wide body. Less mega offset in the front. This is a pretty standard offset wheel, but mega offset in the rear. This company has 3-piece wheels in stock. They have pieces in stock. They have lips in stock. They have barrels in stock. They have centers in stock. They have things in America, and they build 3-piece wheels without insane delay of months and months and months, which has been the experience for me every time I bought 3-piece wheels, which scares me from buying them. This process was great. They did give me a small discount, which I'm also very happy about, and I'm going to share their website URL in the description. I'm buying my 3-piece wheels from these guys from now on. Between the price and the speed and the quality, I'm a very happy camper. And while I'm putting links in the description, other things that make me happy campers is Nitto's support of our channel. These are wrapped in Nitto tires, brand new Nitto tires all the way around on all 4 corners. Huge thanks to Nitto. Actually, these are not brand new tires. These are the ones we've been testing on the Murcielago for a while. I forgot about that. These we stole off the R69 GTR. So thank you, Nitto, for giving us so many tires for every vehicle here in the shop and over there that we can test out different tire fitments just by grabbing stuff off of the shelf. So shout out to Nitto Tires as well. Link is in the description. Thank you so much to them for the support and amazing good quality tires. So back on the wheel subject, these wheels have been scuffed. They were sent to us perfectly. I asked them, I just said send it raw because we're going to paint them anyways. And at the time, I didn't know how we were going to paint them to match this car. So Kyle spent last night scuffing up our outer lip and scuffing up our centerpiece, and they're going to get masked and ready for paint. These guys are going to go a flat black color, and the outside lip and the bolts are going to go a gloss black color. This is something that I had seen done on Lamborghini Diablos a lot. And we have a faux center cap that I just 3D printed, and I would actually love to test. I don't think it's going to fit now that I'm looking at it, but let's go grab one. You guys know I love my 3D printings. So this is ABS plastic. Actually, it's ASA plastic. And this is the part that snaps into the wheel. And this would be the faux nut, center lock nut. It's very simple. It's a very simple design, but because this corner right here is rounded, I have a feeling, oh, I think it actually might fit, but if it fits in there, it might not come back out. Yeah, it's not gonna fit without a little bit of rounding of this corner, but I kind of like this look. I'm not 100% sure if I love this look. I don't know, but first we paint the wheels, and then given the amount of time that we do or do not have, we'll decide. It looks a little plain. It looks a little blanked off. I think it might need some more depth. And I'm not scared of showing my nuts. All right, Kyle, have fun painting. So for the centerpieces on these wheels, we decided to go with the Steel It Black. Now, if applied correctly and applied with 2 good coats, allowing to dry in between, it is a very tough, very strong surface that we've used on off-road race cars and tons of other things that get tons of abuse, and it's held up great. And the finish is always wonderful. So Kyle just grabbed a good old rattle can and the light from his cell phone and gave him 2 good coats of Steel It Black. After a lot of masking, we're ready to paint our single stage gloss black that goes on the bolts and the outer lips. You can see we got this transition here to Kyle painting the outer lips to me painting a raw lip, and well, we're going to explain that in a bit. But one big thing I just wanted to point out so you guys could all see and all know about this is if you see this much fog in your paint booth and you see that the air quality is that bad,
don't do what I'm doing here. You need to build in better ventilation. You need to build in a better system to clear this fog faster, because these respirators cannot deal with that much. And unfortunately, Kyle and I both lightly poisoned ourselves on this night from too much fumes, too many paint fumes. The respirator couldn't keep up, and even though I couldn't smell it coming through my respirator, I could physically feel it, and being poisoned by paint absolutely sucks. Since we're running so low on time, I decided to hire in a person that I had actually met in Vegas, PDX Mobile Auto Spa. So this guy is a local to PDX area detailer. Really cool setup. He brings his own van over. He's got all his own equipment and everything. And the main project I wanted him to do is make sure that our engine bay on this car looked totally dialed. And the biggest first part is to take all the carbon fiber pieces, clean them down, and then polish them and buff them, because they look really good. They're still in good quality and got a good clear coat, but it needed a good amount of work. So he did all of that, and then unfortunately we didn't get a lot of good imagery and video of it, but he dialed in the rest of the engine bay, cleaned it all up, wrapped a few wires that needed wrapping, did a lot of great stuff, and our engine bay looked like 100% OEM for the show. Really, really impressive work that he did, and he actually has some pictures on his Instagram, so I'll put that in the description below if you want to go check that out. He's a great guy. It was fun working with him, and it was a really nice touch, because the two areas of this car that I wanted to make OEM and do a full restoration on were the interior and the engine bay. And I think we did a great job on that.
Being a YouTuber who builds and races cars is not your typical 9 to 5. It's a really exciting job, but it does come with some risks that are involved. Whether I'm welding or racing, I know things can go wrong, and that's why I wanted to make sure my family is taken care of if something ever happens to me. And that's why I'm happy to have found Ethos, the sponsor of today's episode. Ethos makes getting health insurance simple and affordable. You can apply 100% online without any medical exams or blood tests. You just answer a few health questions. You can get a quote in seconds, you can apply in minutes, and in most cases you can get coverage up to $2 million the same day. So you can get back to focusing on what matters most, your family. Did you know that raising a child costs around $311,000 according to a 2022 booking study? Life insurance can help cover big costs like that, as well as things like debts, mortgages, and everyday expenses. It's all about protecting your family's future if the worst happens, and Ethos can provide a safety net. I mean, for me personally, knowing that my family won't be left with any financial burdens gives me peace of mind. Whether it's to cover mortgage or childcare or just to maintain their lifestyle. When I applied, I couldn't believe how easy the process was. I got a quote in just seconds by answering a few health questions online, no exams, no blood tests, and within minutes I was covered for up to $2 million. It's that simple. And remember, according to Investopedia, the longer you wait, the more life insurance can cost. Premiums can go up by 8 to 10% each year you wait. Ethos makes life insurance affordable too. If you think about it, this could be one of the smartest financial decisions you ever make for your loved ones. So if you've been putting off life insurance, now is the time to act. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to get your free quote today. Thanks to Ethos for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back to it.
While we were painting the doors, we also painted this steel backfill panel that I made a few episodes back. The thing that I didn't show you guys is that I 3D scanned the kind of void there, the area that I wanted to cover in, and I was able to 3D print a few parts that would basically hold this thing in place the right way. So they filled that void, they filled that extra spot, and they're again out of ASA plastic, 3D printed them. It was a really good first pass print that we did, and then basically I went ahead and drilled holes in this piece of metal and threw the 3D printed piece of plastic into the OEM bolting area for the stock spoiler. And then I followed it up with some fun standoffs and different things to bolt in the stock spoiler that raised up, but just slide it back like 2 extra inches.
Big news, boys. Big news, big great news. So today is Thursday, game plan. We're gonna work all through the night into Friday morning. Probably Friday morning at about 9 a.m. they told us the truck was gonna arrive to grab the car. They're actually now have told us they're gonna arrive Saturday morning, and they're gonna straight shot to Vegas to have it there for us on Sunday. So that's fantastic. It gives us a whole nother night to work. It gives basically 24 hours more than we thought we had to work, which is amazing. It means I might get a good nap. Movie marathon update. We have watched all the Marvel movies, all the Star Wars movies, all the Cars movies. Yesterday we watched all the Die Hard movies. There's 5 of them, by the way. We're on the 3rd Harry Potter movie. It's really exciting. We got like 48 more hours. I don't know. Imagine how many more movies we can watch. These wheels, man, this stressed me out. So what happened was Kyle sprayed these and he went in with the full-size spray gun, and to get enough coverage to where you're not seeing the aluminum through the black paint, which creates like a bronze color, it takes a lot of paint. It takes a lot of paint. So Kyle put a lot of paint on there. Didn't give it enough time to dry up in between coats to tack up hard enough, and being a totally vertical surface, it's also really challenging. So what happened is Kyle got done and it looked good. It looked like this, and then the paint started to run. It started to run down the wheel face, and it was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So we grabbed rags, grabbed acetone, pulled all that old paint off, and then I came back in and repainted these, and I used a detail gun, and I was very, very careful not to put on too much paint. So the end result is great. You can see we've got that mirror finish. If you look at, like, I think the camera will pick that up. You can see what the wheel looks like, you know, through the barrel. Anyways, it looks good. We've got our matte finish in our center and our gloss finish on our lip, which is exactly what we wanted. So I'm very happy with how these turned out, but that was shockingly scary. Then the next issue that happened is they didn't dry up. It was too cold in this paint booth. The paint wasn't catalyzing, and the wheels were like, I came in here and it felt kind of gummy. It didn't feel, and that was like, I don't know, 18 hours later than from when we painted. So then we grabbed the space heater from my house, and we've been heating this room as hot as we can get it, and it's kind of just been a space for things to dry. We've got carpets in here drying and other stuff like that. So the wheels are finally now like fully dry. We're gonna go ahead and pull masking on these beauties. I love that's steel lip for our matte or black color, not high gloss black color, and I love the contrast of these two. I think it looks phenomenal. So we're gonna go ahead and get these unmasked, and then we'll get them on the car before too long, because we're gonna do some final suspension adjustments around the wheels.
Kyle had the especially hard task of installing these lower side skirt extensions, or the side skirt vents, whatever you want to call them. The reason it was difficult is because we needed to make sure that these could be removable. Just in case we couldn't find an extra large transport to get us to Vegas, we had to have the ability to remove the side skirt and remove these side skirt vents, and then fit the car with a wheel with more positive offset. In the end though, they're mounted up pretty well. We used a hidden rivet plate, so there are 2 visible rivets, not a big deal, and a speed nut, what I call a speed nut. Harbor Freight calls them a U-clip, in the back that attached it to the rear quarter panel.
All right, time check, it's 8 p.m. Those lower side skirt extensions were a little tricky, but they're on. And they look really good. So that is awesome. And they're removable, which is double awesome. Next up, super awesome piece that I love, the roof scoop. So Kyle's been body working this thing up. I 3D printed this out of ASA plastic. This is a big test for us. We're gonna see if something that's in direct sunlight can survive. So it's body worked up. It's almost finished being smooth, but before we do that, we gotta make a cut. So just like our last one, which is somewhere way back down here in storage, we're gonna make a cut at a bit of an angle like that. And we'll cut it here, we'll cut it across, we'll body work both the edges, and that one side will stay with the car, the other side will stay with the roof. And when we open the hatch, that one will slide up over the other one.
In the background, this hood scoop was giving us so much troubles between the ASA warping during printing, between cracks and layer lines, and later on it gave us about 3 bad runs on a paint job that we had to redo multiple times. But luckily, with so little time left, we really nailed cutting this line out of the piece and having a functional hatch be able to open all the way while keeping the roof piece on the roof. For the interior, it was kind of all hands on deck. We had Chelsea helping out with carpets and any touch up on any pieces that we might need. And I hired my friend John to come help us kind of figure out how the interior went back together. Oscar uninstalled this interior, and unfortunately we seem to have lost the bolts that were set aside for the interior. So it was a very large project of finding the right bolt for every single piece and finding how every single piece went together. So you'll see John in and out of the interior and a bunch of different types of clips, just trying to kind of decode this whole puzzle for us and get it back together so we got that perfectly good color changed OEM interior that I wanted on this build.
All right, guys, it is 5:05 a.m. We have 26 hours left before we go on to transport. Now that we're starting to get down to very few hours left, we got to focus on really mission critical stuff. One thing that jumps out to me, two big things that jump out to me, doors and windshield. You can't install that windshield trim without a hammer, which is very interesting, but we got one side hammered on. We're gonna get the next side hammered on, and then we're gonna test fit our windshield. Probably not do the full install on it quite yet, but I'm gonna test the windshield and the cowl and all the molding, make sure it's all looking good, and then we'll clean up the edges, and then we'll probably just install the windshield.
Murcielago windshield glass is super hard to find, which is why I was so happy to be able to partner with furparts.com for this piece. They had a few in inventory. They shipped it immaculately. There's no damage in shipment or anything like that. And it was just a absolutely great experience. So huge shout out to furparts.com for hooking us up. If you need any European car parts, sometimes they even sell whole cars, make sure to check them out. I'll put a link down in the description. They're really, really good guys and a great resource for those hard to find parts. With a windshield glass reinstall, you want to use a good quality, I like 3M polyurethane windshield urethane. You can apply it with a caulking gun. You want to run a really high peaked bead all the way around. And this one's very interesting because it doesn't really have a side lip to catch it, but it will run into the molding just fine. We do the buildup of a really nice high bead, and then the cowl is also just glued on with windshield urethane. So we stripped the old stuff off and laid new urethane down for the cowl as well.
That is a damn good windshield install. So we got the windshield, we got the cowl on here. Kind of interesting thing, we noticed when we took the old windshield out that there was a little rust right in this area right here. These cars are hand built, so there's gonna be differences from chassis to chassis, from piece to piece and different things like that. And something about the way that this one is built, it's kind of arched up, so the windshield, when it sets in there, it left a pocket, and then they got a leak in their polyurethane, and that's what caused that rusting. So what I did was, we kind of basically had the same issue. Windshield was a little high, so I filled the whole thing with polyurethane from like there all the way through there, and just filled it all the way in and then cleaned the line. And then it ended up that the cowl covered it all anyway, so all good there. Very happy. We've got a windshield wiper right down there that we'll throw on, but I'm very happy. The tape's gonna stay on until everything dries up. It's gonna be probably 4 or 5 hours. So like 6 o'clock or so. We'll know we have about 12 hours after that to finish the car. We're gonna jump into doors now. We're trying to go for big ticket items so the car looks more like a car as we get really close down to the wire here. So Kyle and I are gonna jump into the doors. We're gonna throw the upholstery into the doors. We got brand new speakers that are gonna go in here. We've got our color changed upholstery that's gonna go in here. We're gonna bolt it all up, and then we're gonna throw the doors onto the car.
Assembling these door panels was luckily a very, very easy process. It's one of the easiest processes I've ever seen in a high-end luxury car. It's literally 3 bolts plus the bolts on the speaker that hold these panels in, and it works very, very well. So we replaced the speaker by sizing out some similarly sized speakers and got very lucky that the bolt holes even matched up. So we used the OEM grills and surrounds while putting a new speaker body in underneath it. And the only really tricky part is the release mechanism from the inside. So to open your door from the inside, the handle pulls on a cable that is under a lot of tension, and the cable is held into the handle by a friction placed pin. It's extremely hard to punch that pin out, so you can release the cable and take the panel off, and in reverse it's even harder to place that pin back in. So overall, panel reinstall time was like 10 minutes to place the panel, but an hour and a half for each of us to fuss with placing that pin to do the door release.
We got the doors buttoned up, but we had to pause on them because we've got some more people coming in to help out with the interior. So before we block that with doors, we figured don't do that. Kyle and I worked on the back end a little bit to line stuff up the best as we could. Got the gaps pretty acceptable. I'm liking that. And Kyle is working on the rear spats now, and that's the extension that kind of comes out here to help flush out the body kit. So he's working on that. I'm working on some audio stuff with Zane. We are 14 hours away from when transport comes. Tonight will be a true all-nighter, and it will make, in 5 days, I think I've slept 15 hours. It's pretty good, maybe a little bit more. And I'll make day 6, actually. At this point, we know we're gonna have to work on the car at the show, but that's okay. Happy to do it. So I'm gonna get these speakers mounted. Kyle's gonna get some spats mounted. We're gonna blast some tunes.
So I know me on No Sleep talking about speakers being mounted after we just mounted speakers is very confusing. Part of this build, part of the Cyberpunk stuff, or just part of the fun of this build that I wanted to do was mount external speakers. So up in the front where the front differential would be, I went ahead and mounted, you couldn't see it because it was, 9 inches off the ground. I mounted 2 speakers. They're not super powerful. They're about 50 watts each, and they face kind of from side to side. And these speakers are triggered by Zane's magical light controlling box. It has a soundboard, and we can load sound files onto that. And what we actually did was we loaded some different sounds. So we have the PS1 boot up sound, we have a computer, like an old school computer boot up sound, and we have kind of like a sci-fi spaceship startup sound. And when each one of these sounds goes off, there's a correlating light show that happens as well, like essentially the car interacting with the sound. So it's not just the car sitting there with a varying light show or a changing rainbow. The lights flash, the lasers flash, all the lighting changes, and it triggers a sound.
Thankfully, in this moment of need, friends come join us, even famous YouTubers like Engineering Explained.
Hey, you're lucky.
So how many hours have you been working on this windshield wiper blade?
You're lucky I'm here. All right, I've got a couple modifications to this. First of all, the wiper blade.
Custom blade.
Yeah, it didn't fit.
All right, anyways, so all right, I'll turn on the camera and time lapse
I've
it.
never put something that large.
The hole's too big for you? You don't recognize it?
Jason did a great job, and we got a good laugh. In the end, we left some of the nuts on the windshield wiper spindle, which made it seem impossible to reinstall. Once we figured that out, though, he had it on there in a flash. And it works.
I'm gonna come over into the timeout corner because there's a lot of people working on the car right now. We just got hit with some bummer news, in my opinion. So a lot of things are being worked on right now. Grills are being made. I was working on making side mirrors. Now I had thought about just doing a blank off plate and then running camera side mirrors, but then I found some side mirrors in storage that I kind of like, and they work very well. So I want to run them. So I ordered steel and to be able to build these things out, and instead of steel, they gave us aluminum, and I can't weld nuts into the back of aluminum or threaded bolts or anything. So I'm gonna have to get really creative. Time-wise, we're really down to the wire. The truck comes in 8 hours, and things like this I can't build at SEMA, so they gotta be done here in the shop. So I gotta get really creative. Listen, Jason might not be very good at installing windshield wiper blades, but he came up with a brilliant idea to take our aftermarket side mirror. It would look kind of ugly if we figured out how to bolt it here because the bolts would be exposed, and fender mount it right here on the body line where it fits, and then rotate it nice. And it will actually look really freaking cool and fit the aesthetic that we're doing. So I'm super jazzed on this idea. I'm gonna go ahead and paint this black, drill the holes, mount this to the fender. That's gonna be absolutely epic. And then I'll build a carbon fiber block off plate for this so it doesn't look not epic.
At this point, there was a record of 8 people working on the same build at the same time, which was a very cool experience. We are at such a tight time crunch. I feel like if I grab the camera and tell you about each different feature, I wasn't going to get my part of the puzzle done. But let me walk you through it. Chelsea's working on painting the edges for all of our side skirts so you don't see any raw aluminum. So the front lip, the side skirts, the rear diffuser, and any other touch-up that needed to be done. I'm working on the side mirror stuff that I talked about, carbon fiber block-off plates where the OEM mirror bolted into, and mounting the mirrors to the fenders. Zane is working on creating the light show audio playlist configuration so when the audio sounds trigger, the lights do a cool light show for each different audio sound. Kyle's working on the roof scoop. Jason, Engineering Explained, is working on the front grills. He's templating out the front grills out of cardboard, and then we have a great hexagonal plastic, I guess I'll call it mesh even though it's not really mesh. It's grill material, and it matches OEM 100% perfectly, which is great. So he's cutting all those out. Adrian and John are working on the interior, and Michelle is inside that door sill painting a kind of cyberpunk inspired pinup girl that I absolutely love. She's sitting on the trunk release handle, and it's a super cool touch. You guys may remember I mentioned the headlight vents multiple times. I unfortunately ran out of time to develop the vent for the headlight. And on this fender, we had cut a line that was gonna perfectly match up with the vent. So I had to do a little last minute damage to the car, themed damage. So I cut up my fender in a weird angular way that I thought it might break into, and then I had to break all the edges and fracture it everywhere so I could just place a piece of metal in behind it that'll match up with the headlight properly.
All right, guys, sorry I haven't been filming much. That's because it is coming right down to the wire. We are so close to being able to actually have every feature and everything done on this car other than paint work that I want to do at the show. It looks like we might actually get it all done in the shop, which is epic. We've got 4 more hours. It's 4 a.m. right now. We've got 4 more hours until the truck comes. I've been told 7 or 8, but I'm going to make sure it's 8 o'clock. Big things that we have left to do is I got to finish the rivet panel on that door. We have to finish the headlights. They're probably that's the sketchiest situation. Zane is working on the wiring for the headlights right now. We've got all the wires figured out, headlights, blinkers, high beam, low beam, all that's good. We've got to put the doors on the car. We've got to put the side mirrors on the car, and we've got to install our roof scoop. And we don't have a driver's seat quite yet. So we're close, 4 hours. We're just gonna bust it out, drive this thing out. Let's do it.
For the roof scoop, just to keep it easy, we decided to do rivet plates, a few rivet plates on the front and a few rivet plates on the back. One key thing I do want to point out though that was very important to me is on the most forward piece, it's riveted on not into the vehicle's roof to create a waterproof area, but the Lamborghini has kind of a rear part where my rear brake light is bolted onto the car, and we riveted into that since it's a removable part. It's easy to patch those rivet holes if we want to. I did not want to put any holes in the roof of this vehicle and allow it to be theoretically water entry. I've now got my piece of metal cut and painted to be able to rivet into the front to match up with the headlight line while Chelsea is bolting in all of our new grills. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the final mounting and wiring of the headlights. Kyle threw on a rivet plate there right in front of the headlight. That was kind of always the game plan, but in the end I don't know if I like that rivet plate or not, but it's a really easy thing to remove in Vegas if I need to. One big problem that we had on this build is we never went and bought mass hardware like we usually do, bags and bags of M6x1 flange bolts and nuts. So we ran super low on hardware. We almost weren't able to mount the side mirrors because we couldn't find 6 matching nuts and bolts, which is pain, I'm sure all of you guys at home know. Luckily, we found a box that was being unused for one thing or another, and well, magically we had about 50. And at this point, Kyle and I had been up for well over 50 or maybe even 60 hours working non-stop. And the driver has called me to let me know he is on the way and going to be there in about 30 minutes. So it is time to hustle. Chelsea got the seat in the car, so the interior is absolutely completed. I'm sawing a hole so I can fit a larger, newer stereo for the road trip home. We open the door to meet the driver and say, I'm sorry, the car has no wheels and only one door on it. And the passenger side door is giving us problems. Our new interior weather stripping made by Lamborghini, plus a door with a little bit of damage, not wanting to fit perfectly together, but that's something I can tweak and tune at the show. Kyle and Zane help throw the wheels on the car. Driver's door goes on without a hitch, closes, opens perfectly, and it's now time to safely get it off the jacks without hurting anybody, because everybody's on 0 sleep. Hope it goes into the gear, pulls itself out of the shop.
And just like that, guys, the car is out of the shop. I had to drive it over to the truck. I will say it's doing pissed off Lamborghini clutch things at slow speeds, which sucks. And the other thing that sucks is, so we bounced up tire size a little bit, knowing that it was gonna be an issue with clearance, and we didn't have time to test it. And it's an issue with clearance for sure. It tapped the headlight, might have broke a mounting point on the headlight, I'm not really sure. That can be fixed at the show. Anyways, everything can be fixed at the show, but it's gonna be adding work, and I'm really wondering how we're even gonna get into the show because we can't do super tight turns. It's the highs and lows of this game. I'm clearly, obviously exhausted. I'm burnt out. I'm done. I'm cooked.
If you remember earlier in this episode, I mentioned that I got an extra day to build, which was a blessing. But it did mean that my day buffer between the end of the build and getting on a plane got deleted. So literally 1 hour after the car leaves on transport, I have to go to the airport, smelling like fresh paint fumes and lack of sleep, grabbed a cocktail, and left cloudy Oregon for beautiful sunny Las Vegas. And immediately once I got to my hotel room, fell asleep for about 18 hours in a row. But as soon as I woke up, the truck had arrived at SEMA with the car safely in tow. And don't forget, the car's not done. I still need to do improvements on turning radius, fix headlights, fix doors, and do all the cosmetic work. But I wanted to give you guys a look and a quick walk around of what the car looked like at SEMA as we loaded in. The booth is still being built, but we drove in under our own power and we got the car into the booth on time. At this point in my head, I'm calculating how many hours of sleep do I get before I gotta come back and finish work on this car. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for the support on this build. I do appreciate you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace!
Come on!